Today we're going to look at CFAM sheets 201, 202, and 203. Let's start with 201. 201 is Revenue 1. Although they look the same, but as all of the expense sheets 1 through 6, there is a big difference in over versus under budget. If we look at this item, which is Fund 6, it shows it's $1.199 million under budget. And you're thinking, a lot of times when you think under budget, you think that's a good thing, but not with revenue. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing if you understand it, because we're looking at Fund 6, we're looking at federal grants, and this is most likely ESSER funds of some sort that span across multiple school years. So you have to budget for the full amount that you were allocated, which you will not spend all in one school year. So this is very common, doesn't mean it's a negative thing, but it is something that can be alarming if you start understanding that this is different than expense and you're under budget, meaning I did not receive $1.2 million that I thought I was going to. It's just a timing issue. So it's not anything negative in this case. That may be of concern if you were looking at tax revenue. But right now we're just going to focus on the federal grants and under and over budget when you're talking about revenue. If you're under budget, that means you did not receive as much money that you budgeted for revenue in this line item. See, the red line has not been reached by the blue line. This is what you actually received, and this is what you budgeted to receive, and this is the difference. So over here on most of these, you are over budget. You receive more revenue in operating than you budgeted for. That's always a good thing. This is an example of revenue by fund, and I'm looking at just funds. You can look at source of funds, object, or groups, both for source of funds and objects. We're going to stick with fund on this one. Just to say on this one item. The largest one to want to dig into a little further is on Fund 6 or federal grants. So you can just narrow that down, narrow your focus with the filter and see only that one. Now let's go to Revenue 2. And so I've just duplicated a tab and changed it to Revenue 2. You can see these sheets across the top. You can just click on them and go to them if you'd like, or you can do additional tabs like I've done above. Get a little more detail, and I have selected in my column 1 fund and selected in column 2 object. Now you can do this in whatever order or selection that you wish, but this is how I've done it for today's presentation. So I want to know more detail. I suspect that was ESSER funds, but I don't know for sure. So I'm going to filter for Fund 6 only, and this kind of narrows my focus again. And I can look down through here and which one is way over budget. If I look at my budget balance analysis column, which is this section on the right, you can kind of see the two sections. So the analysis column, this square that you see here, one jumps out at you as there's just over $1 million that is under budget, meaning you did not receive that revenue. Well, this, because we've selected object as column 2, actually gives us the item, and that's $1 million that we're under budget on for revenue with the ARA funds or ESSER 3 in this item. So that gives you more detail, and it references back to what we found and discovered here. It makes up the vast majority of this $1.2 million that was under budget, but not all of it. So some of it is in other places, as you can see here, just in Fund 6. Now, if you want to get really detailed, that's when you go to Revenue 3. And Revenue 3, the sampling that I'm going to show today is Fund in column 1, Object Groups in column 2, and Object in column 3. And you can see the different options by just clicking the arrow on each of those columns. What is the difference here? Well, again, let's focus on Fund 6. So that way we don't have all this data that we have here to look at. It is sectioned off and you could make sense of it, but it's a lot easier just to set your filter and look at one thing at a time. Fits on your screen nicely. And again, we can look at this detail and know that it came from federal sources. We've kind of already went over that. Let's look at another one. I want to deselect 6 and select 8 on the fund. So food service is made up of federal sources as well. And so we want to filter down just to federal sources, and that's where the object groups comes in. So what revenue did we receive strictly from the feds? So you can deselect all, select 4 or federal sources, and hit apply. And that gives you a breakdown by object, because see, that's our column 3, each revenue stream that you receive from federal sources for food service. And you can see the analysis and work on that however you like. If you want to, on the analysis or the dollars, you can hover over them and click to sort, and that's going to sort descending. You see how that goes down. But if I would like to do the same for here, I could sort ascending with this one or descending with the one on the right. Kind of just organizes it and helps you with your view. That is how you would use 201, 202, and 203 in CFAM. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Thank you.